You're standing on the first tee. You make the same swing you've made for 40 years. Smooth, balanced, nothing wrong with it. And you watch your ball come down 30 yards short of where the young guy in your group just landed his. Same tee, same effort, same swing you trust, different ball. I want you to sit with that for a second, because it stopped me cold when I finally understood it. The golf ball sitting in your bag right now is quietly robbing you of distance you already earned. Not your age, not your flexibility, not some part of your body giving out. The ball. The little white thing you never think twice about is leaving yards on the table every single time you tee it up. And here's the part that made me obsessed. This was common knowledge once. Golfers understood it. Then somewhere along the line the trail went cold. The truth got buried under shiny marketing, and everybody just forgot. I chased this thing for months. It started with a strange chart from a rubber experiment in 1898, and it ended with a rule the USGA quietly put in the book to ban something old caddies used to do for free. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly which ball belongs in your bag this weekend, and it costs less than the one that's failing you. I first noticed it at a little muni course outside Toledo, watching a 78-year-old man named Walt outdrive men half his age with a swing that looked like he was barely trying. I couldn't figure it out. He wasn't stronger, he wasn't younger, so I started pulling the thread. And what I found underneath changed the way I think about this entire game. Let me take you back to where it started for me. I stood behind Walt on that tee box, and I studied his swing like a detective studies a crime scene. It was slow, almost gentle. The kind of swing you'd expect from a man who'd been playing since Eisenhower was in office. And yet his ball just kept going. It carried past the young men, rolled out, and settled in the short grass while their drives dropped out of the sky like wounded ducks. I finally walked up to him and asked him flat out what he was doing. He didn't say anything about his grip. He didn't mention his stance. He reached into his pocket, held up his golf ball and said, "Son, it's not me, it's this." Then he smiled and walked to his cart. That was the moment the mystery opened for me, because I had always believed the exact opposite. I believed the better the player, the better the ball, and that the most expensive ball on the shelf was the best ball for everybody. That's what I'd been told my whole life. That's what the ads said. That's what the guys in my group repeated to each other like gospel. But Walt was playing something else entirely, and it was beating us. So I went home and I started reading, and the first thing I had to understand was a word that gets thrown around but almost never explained: compression. Every golf ball has a compression rating, and that number tells you how much the ball squishes when you hit it. A high compression ball, something rated around 90 or 100, is hard. It's built like a rock. It barely gives. A low compression ball, something down around 40 or 50, is soft. It squishes easily, springs back fast, and launches off the face with almost no effort. Now here's why that matters, and why it took me a while to believe it. A golf ball only gives you its full distance when you compress it correctly. When you squeeze that ball against the club face and it flattens and snaps back, that snap is where your energy goes into the shot. It's like a spring. If you don't compress the spring, it can't push back. And to compress a hard, high compression ball, you need serious club head speed. We're talking a driver swing speed up around 105 miles per hour or more. That's tour player speed. That's a strong 30-year-old crushing it. But that's not us. And this is where the numbers got personal. I dug into the research, and the average driver swing speed for a male golfer over the age of 50 starts dropping fast. By 60, a lot of men are swinging the driver somewhere between 75 and 85 miles per hour. By 70, plenty of players are down in the low 70s, or even the 60s, and there is nothing wrong with that. That's just what happens. The shoulders tighten, the hips slow down, the speed fades a little every year. It's natural, but when you take a swing speed of 80 miles per hour and you use it to hit a golf ball built to be compressed at 105, something quietly terrible happens. You never compress the ball. It stays a rock. The spring never loads. And all that energy you generated, all that effort, just dies on the club face. The ball comes off flat and slow and short. You did everything right, and the equipment ignored you. That was Walt's secret. He wasn't stronger than the young guys. He was smarter. He'd matched his ball to his swing, and they hadn't. They were swinging 100 miles per hour with rocks and getting away with it. He was swinging 70-something with a soft ball that actually squished, and he was getting every last yard his swing could give. I sat there staring at my notes, and I felt something between relief and anger. Relief because it wasn't me. Anger because nobody had ever told me, but I still had a question gnawing at me. If soft balls were better for slower swings, why did every golfer I knew, every senior at my course, still have a sleeve of the hardest, most expensive tour balls in his bag? Somebody had convinced an entire generation of older men to play exactly the wrong ball, and I wanted to know who and when the switch happened. So I kept digging, and the trail led me somewhere I didn't expect. It led me all the way back to 1898. There was a man named Coburn Haskell, and in 1898 he invented something that changed golf forever. Before him, golfers played what they called a gutta percha ball, basically a hard lump of dried tree sap. It was miserable. It flew short. It stung your hands. Haskell had the idea to wind rubber thread tightly around a small core and wrap it in a cover, and suddenly the ball had spring in it. It compressed. It rebounded. Players who switched to the Haskell ball started hitting it dramatically farther overnight, and the old hard ball vanished within a few years. Here's why that matters to you and me. From the very beginning of the modern golf ball, the entire point was compression. The whole reason the ball got better was that it learned to squish and spring back. For decades after Haskell, golf ball makers understood that different players needed different amounts of give. They knew a hard swinging champion and a gentle swinging weekend player were not the same, and they built balls accordingly. Softer balls for softer swings. This wasn't a secret. It was common sense written right into the design of the game. So the knowledge existed. That's what I kept coming back to. It existed for 100 years, which meant somebody had to actively bury it for us to forget it. And that's the thread I pulled next. But before I get to who buried it, I need you to understand just how much distance we're actually talking about, because when I found the real numbers, I understood why Walt was smiling. Independent testing labs have put slower swing speeds up against both hard and soft balls, and the results are not subtle. For a golfer swinging around 80 miles per hour, switching from a high-compression tour ball to a properly matched low-compression ball can add real, measurable carry distance. We're not talking about a couple of feet. Testing has shown differences of anywhere from 10 to as much as 30 yards off the driver once you factor in the extra carry and the extra rollout you get from a ball that launches higher and lands softer at the right angle. Think about what 30 yards actually means to your round. It's the difference between reaching the fairway and coming up in the rough. It's hitting your approach with a 9-iron instead of a 5-iron. It's reaching a par 5 in 2 for the first time in years. It's the difference between playing defense all day and actually attacking a golf course again. 30 yards is not a small thing. 30 yards is your whole game. And here's the cruel part. The men losing those 30 yards are usually the ones who care the most. They're the ones who spent the extra money. They walked into the shop, saw the premium ball the tour pros play, saw the price tag and thought, if it's good enough for the best players in the world, it's good enough for me. That logic feels right. It feels responsible. And it's exactly backwards. The premium tour ball is engineered for a swing you don't have anymore, and it punishes you for not having it. I want to stop here and say something plainly, because this is the part that got me heated once I saw it clearly. Nobody lied to you outright. No salesman looked you in the eye and told you a falsehood. But someone absolutely benefited from you not knowing this. Someone made a fortune selling the most expensive product in the store to the exact customers it was least suited for, and letting those customers blame their own aging bodies for the lost distance instead of blaming the ball. That's the quiet trick. When the ball fails you, you don't get angry at the ball. You get sad about getting older, and you go buy more of the same ball, because surely it's not the ball's fault. That's when I understood the shape of what I was looking at. This wasn't a conspiracy with a villain in a dark room. It was something slipperier. It was decades of marketing pointed at pride. The whole industry figured out that a 65-year-old man wants to feel like he's still got it, and the easiest way to sell him the priciest ball is to associate it with the best players alive. So they did. Over and over, for years, until an entire generation of good, hard-working golfers was walking around with rocks in their bags, giving away 30 yards, and thanking the store for the privilege. Now let me guess what you're thinking, because I thought it too. You're thinking, that might be true for other guys, but my situation is different. I don't have money to keep buying new balls to experiment. I've played the same brand for 20 years. I don't want to relearn my whole game. This is for people with more time and money than me. I hear you. I really do. So let me show you the part that costs you almost nothing and takes about 5 minutes. You do not need a launch monitor. You do not need a fitting. You do not need to spend $200 testing a dozen brands. Here's the simplest test I found, and you can do it in your own driveway or your backyard this week. Take the ball you play now and press it hard against a tabletop with the heel of your hand, or squeeze it between your thumb and a hard surface. Feel how much it gives. Now, next time you're at the store, do the same thing with one of the soft, low compression balls, the ones marketed as soft or super soft right on the box. Feel the difference in your hand. If your current ball feels like a marble and the soft one gives noticeably under your hand, that's your answer standing right there. And that number is exactly why I couldn't leave this at one video. Everything I've handed you so far in these few minutes is real, and it works, but it's the short version, the part that fits in a sitting. When I kept pulling the thread, I ended up writing the whole thing down properly. 3 books that walk you through finding your true swing speed at your kitchen table without any launch monitor, matching compression to that speed instead of guessing at a box, correcting for cold mornings, and shortlisting the exact models worth putting in your bag along with the cheaper direct routes most shops never mention. 402 pages of it, because that's what it took to say it completely instead of quickly. If you want the finished version of what's already helping you right now, scan the QR code right there on your screen, link in the description, pinned comment for the books. Take it with you the next time you stand in that aisle wondering which box is lying to you, because the men this cost the most are never the careless ones. And here's the money part, because I know that matters, and it should. The ball you should be playing is almost always cheaper than the one you're playing now. The soft, low-compression balls built for real-world swing speeds usually sell for less than half the price of the premium tour balls. So this isn't a video asking you to spend more. It's the opposite. You're going to hit it farther and pay less. When I realized that, I actually laughed out loud, because it's so backwards from everything I'd assumed. Let me give you the specifics so you're not guessing in the aisle. If your driver swing speed is under about 85 miles per hour, and for most of us over 60 it is, you want a golf ball with a compression rating somewhere around 50 or lower. The boxes don't always print the number, but they print the language. Look for the words soft, super soft, soft feel, or senior. Those aren't gimmicks. Those are the balls actually engineered to compress at the speeds you and I generate. The ones that made a real difference in independent testing for slower swingers are widely available, they're on every shelf, and they're the budget-friendly options, not the trophy ones behind the counter. And if you don't know your swing speed, don't worry about it. Here's a dead simple field test. Grab your 7-iron. If you carry that club comfortably around 140 yards or more, you're probably a faster swinger, and a mid-compression ball suits you. If your 7-iron carries closer to 120 yards or less, you are exactly the golfer the soft ball was built for, and you have almost certainly been losing distance for years. That's it. No gadgets. Just a number you already know from your own game. So I had the compression piece solved. I knew what ball to play and why. I could have stopped there. But that rule I mentioned at the very beginning kept nagging at me, because while I was reading through old golfing records, I found something the USGA had banned, and the reason they banned it told me there was one more secret still buried. One more thing the old-timers knew that got quietly outlawed and forgotten. And this is the piece almost nobody talks about. Here's the clue that cracked it open. Buried in the rules of golf, there's a rule, Rule 4.2, that forbids a player from deliberately warming a golf ball during a round. You are not allowed to heat your ball. You cannot carry a warmer. You cannot put it on a heat pack. If you deliberately warm your ball to change how it performs during play, that's a penalty. And when I read that, I stopped and thought, wait a minute. Why would there be a rule against warming a ball? You don't write a rule to ban something unless people were doing it and unless it worked. So I chased that down, and what I found is one of the most useful things I've learned about this game in years. Temperature changes everything about how a golf ball performs. A cold golf ball is a dead golf ball. When a ball gets cold, the rubber inside stiffens, the core gets sluggish, it loses its bounce, and it flat out won't spring back the way it's supposed to. A warm ball is lively. The rubber is loose and responsive. It compresses easily and rebounds hard, and it flies noticeably farther. And the numbers on this are real. Testing has shown that a golf ball loses meaningful distance for every drop in temperature. Go from a warm ball at around 70 degrees down to a cold ball at 40 degrees, and you can lose somewhere in the range of 5 to 10 yards, sometimes more, purely from the cold stiffening the ball. Stack that on top of playing the wrong compression, and now you understand how a senior golfer could be losing not 30 yards but closer to 40, and blaming every bit of it on his back. Now think about how you and I actually store our golf balls. Where do they live? In the garage, in the trunk of the car, in a cold cart barn, out in an unheated shed. Especially in spring and fall, when the mornings are cool and we're the most excited to get out and play, our golf balls have been sitting in a cold trunk overnight. We pull out a ball that's been chilled down to 45 degrees, we tee it up, and it comes off the face like a stone. And we never once suspect the temperature, because nobody ever told us. This is what the old caddies knew. Back before the rule, players and their caddies would keep a couple of balls warm, in a pocket, close to the body, sometimes rotating them so a warm one was always ready. They understood instinctively that a warm ball went farther. It was such a real advantage that the governing bodies eventually had to write a rule to stop players from doing it during the round with warmers and heating devices. The knowledge was so effective it got banned. And once it got banned, it got forgotten. That's how these things disappear. The rule outlaws the trick, a generation passes, and nobody remembers the trick ever existed. But here's the beautiful part, and this is the finale I promised you. The rule only forbids deliberately warming the ball during the round. It says nothing about the temperature your ball starts at. You are completely free to begin your round with a warm golf ball. And that changes everything, because it means you can legally capture almost all of that lost distance with a habit that costs you nothing and takes zero skill. Here's exactly what I do now, and I want you to try it this weekend. The night before I play, I bring my golf balls inside. They do not sleep in the garage. They do not sleep in the trunk. They come into the house, into a warm room, and they sit at a comfortable indoor temperature all night, somewhere around 70 degrees. In the morning, I keep the sleeve I'm going to use inside until the last possible moment, and I carry the first ball in my pocket, close to my body, on the way to the course. When I tee it up on the first hole, that ball is warm, lively, and ready to spring, while everyone else in my group just pulled a cold rock out of a cold trunk. If you play in cooler weather, take it one step further, the way the old caddies did, within the rules. Keep 2 or 3 balls in your pocket. When you tee off, you're playing a warm one. The others stay warm against your body until it's their turn. You are not warming them during play with any device. You are simply carrying spare balls the way golfers have always carried spare balls, and they happen to stay warm. That's not a penalty. That's just being smart. Exactly the way players were smart before the modern game trained us to store everything in the freezing trunk of a car and never think about it. Let me put the whole trail together for you now, because when I finally saw all 3 pieces stacked up, I understood Walt's smile completely. Piece 1. From Coburn Haskell in 1898, the entire modern ball is built on compression, and compression only works if the ball actually squishes at your swing speed. Piece 2. The average golfer over 60 is swinging far too slowly to compress the hard premium tour ball, and by switching to a soft, low-compression ball, he wins back somewhere between 10 and 30 yards while paying less money. Piece 3. Hidden inside a rule written to ban an old caddy trick, temperature quietly steals another 5 to 10 yards from a cold ball, and starting your round with a warm ball, legally, hands that distance right back. Add it all up and you're not looking at 30 yards anymore. You're looking at a golfer who's been playing a hard, cold, mismatched ball for years, potentially giving away close to 40 yards off the tee, and blaming his knees and his shoulders and his age the entire time, when the real culprit was sitting in his hand and freezing in his trunk the whole time. I tested every bit of this myself, because I didn't believe it either. I doubted the compression thing. I really doubted the temperature thing. It sounded too easy, and I've been burned by easy answers before. So I went out on a cool spring morning with 2 balls. One was my old premium tour ball, straight out of the cold trunk. The other was a soft, low-compression ball that had spent the night in my kitchen and the morning in my pocket. Same swing, same club, same tee, and the warm, soft ball flew past the cold, hard one so clearly that the guys I was playing with started asking what I'd changed in my swing. I hadn't changed a thing in my swing. I'd only stopped fighting my own equipment. That's the whole thing. That's what I found at the end of the trail that started with a 78-year-old man named Walt and a chart from 1898. The knowledge was never lost because it stopped being true. It was lost because it stopped being profitable to tell you, and because a rule made one half of it invisible. But it was always there, waiting in the old records for anybody willing to pull the thread. Here's what I keep thinking about. Somewhere out there, a whole generation of good golfers, men who loved this game and gave it their weekends for 50 years, quietly decided they were finished being good at it. They accepted the short drives. They accepted playing the long clubs into every green. They told themselves it was just age, and they made their peace with it. And it wasn't age. It was a rock in a cold trunk. That's the part that stays with me. So many rounds given up. So many yards surrendered to a problem that costs less than $5 and one warm night indoors to fix. You are the kind of person who suspected there was more to it. You clicked on this because some part of you never fully believed that you'd simply lost it, that the game had passed you by, that there was nothing to do but shrink, and you were right to be suspicious. That instinct, that refusal to just accept the story you were handed, that's exactly what leads a person to the truth that got buried. The people who quietly buried this were counting on you to blame yourself and keep buying. You're not going to do that anymore. So let me ask you something specific, and I really want you to answer it, because this audience doesn't speak up nearly as often as it should. Where do your golf balls sleep tonight? Are they out in the cold garage or the trunk of your car right now as you're watching this? Tell me in the comments. And tell me your 7-iron carry number, because I want to know how many of you just realized you've been playing the wrong ball this whole time. Leave a comment, even just one line. It genuinely helps other folks find this and stop losing yards they never had to lose. And if you believe, like I do, that a lot of useful, simple knowledge got quietly buried so we'd keep paying for things our fathers did for free, then come along with me. That's the whole reason this channel exists, to dig these things back up one at a time and hand them back to the people they were taken from. Because I've already started pulling the next thread, and it's about the golf glove and one small thing the old players did to their grips that made a worn club feel brand new again, and why the shops stopped mentioning it. You're going to want to hear that one. I'll see you there. Before you go, let me tell you where this leads. Here I gave you the story. But inside the old ways circle, I walk you through the exact low compression ball for your swing speed, picking up right where I stopped. In there you can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be doing this alone. Point your phone's camera at the code. Cancel anytime, one click, no risk. Now that you've got the right ball, Let's make sure your clubs aren't holding you back either. The next video shows you 7 clubs that match your swing and help you hit longer, straighter shots. It's starting right here.